Video log 10th of the 2nd, 2013. A new project, obviously newer than the most recent video log. We have 3 projects upcoming in the main lessons, the main course. Currently we're on deconstructing the Grandmaster, drawing, and soon to be doing a new project in which we, I think, work with a piece of text. In contemporary practice, in context, we have to write a manifesto and review manifestos and review books. And me and my group have had to talk about our abhorrent failure in the last project, in which we had to create a narrative from 4 words. Now, I think I'm going to begin by talking about the main projects, what I'm doing in them, and then moving on to my plans for the next project, which are very few and very sparse, and then talking about what happened in contemporary practice and context, my manifesto and my view of others, and then obviously just general diary material. So, in the main project, in deconstructing the Grandmaster, I started out just not really thinking about it, really. I went out on a hunch, and I thought to myself I'd like to do a medieval painting of some knight throwing down a dragon, and I went for St. George and the dragon, and naivety kind of spoiled my deconstruction of it. My initial response was to copy it and do my own, which turned out less inspired than I'd hoped. So I moved on to a new idea, which was after watching a documentary about the 1970s riots against Margaret Thatcher and the riots of the miners and the working class. But that went down the hole as well, as it was, in my eyes, contrived and not a very good idea for a project, and I couldn't exactly take it very far, and it was personal to me in a way, but also too broad for me. So to explain what I'm doing in the deconstruction of the Grandmaster project, I had to tell it as a story, I think. The story of my inspiration for this project that came after a dream in which I was tortured by an unknown entity, a world of pain, and I woke up in a cold sweat, not for the first time and not for the last time, thrashing and crying out. And I took up a brush and my Indian ink, and I jotted down what the dream was and tried to express it, and I found that the curves and the lines were more provocative than any realistic drawing I could have tried to do, more expressive of the anguish and the surrealism of the dream. And so I took that up. I stuck with the brush and the ink, black ink only, and I have still stuck with it. And I did a lot of brush and ink drawings or paintings, which were just ideas from my mind, no reference material, no source material, an expression of my imagination, an expression of my dreams. And I showed it to Bob, and he said one thing which stuck with me, which was that he felt like I was creating my own personal hell on the paper. And after hearing that, I tried to choose an artifact to deconstruct, and I chose the most famous piece of work in my eyes by Hieronymus Bosch. The I think it's either the Garden of Eden or the Garden of Earthly Pleasures and Delights. I can't remember which, but I've taken to painting all of my ideas as I get them and being spontaneous in my expression of them. And it kind of and as I well I've created 40 or 50 now, and as I look back on them I see that they would be the centerpiece, the limbo, because some are positive and some are negative. Some reflect a horrific nightmares, others reflect a cheerful whim, and I feel like that would be the center. The center is limbo, is the mixture of light and dark, whereas, well, in Hieronymus Bosch's piece, it is mainly light and the animals, because as we all know, animals don't go to heaven. And now I work on the more positive side, the heaven, as it would be put. In his painting, it is serene and classy, to use a word I can only conjure up now. And I think next week I will work on the darker side, the side of nightmares and nightmares only, and pain. And I will do a triptych as he has done it, but I am debating whether to do what I did with Limbo and simply cut away the white of all my paintings and put them together into a big montage, of which I am very pleased, or another avenue, which is to have them burnt onto wood with the laser cutter, which really looks very tempting because everyone wants to do it because it makes work look beautiful and it makes me look like a very skilled artisan, of which I am not. And I think I may go for that if money provides and if my time pervades. Next, well, actually, on that subject, I've put the work up of the last few weeks around my room, and the sheer bulk of it kind of expresses the soup bowl that is my mind and how uncontrollable the ideas are. I like to look at them. No one has been in my room for a while except me, which is, yes, albeit depressing. But I think if anyone did come in now, they'd be very shocked and would probably either want to get me a straitjacket or want to leave very quickly or want to stay, which in my mind would be even more worrying. Now, drawing. Due to the intense focus on brush and black ink, I've chosen to work with those in my drawing project for now, and I've chosen to take up the mantle of a web comic writer and designer. I once again had a dream in which I was a demon hunter with horns and a tail, and my oldest and best friend Scott was a disembodied I who kept his long jet black hair. And it's, in my eyes, a witty comic about, well, they're one frame comics each, and each of them are situations in which we are kind of really, really shitty versions of Hellboy, to put it in one way. Incredibly shitty demon hunters. We can't hunt demons to save our lives, and if we are doing it to save our lives, well, we've got to be doing it to save other people's lives and some money, and that person has got to be higher than 5 out of 10 on the hot woman calendar. Yeah, they're very, very fun to write, and I did it in the same style I did it in an expressionist way, letting my hand grow used to the character with the brush and having um, trying to create an equilibrium between the detail of the character and the detail of the page, which in the first one they were in equal amounts, and it seemed like a lot of it wasn't being looked at, so I went for a more simplified version, which is um, it's very pleasing to do, and I like to show it to people because I like to have my ego stroked, as does any artist. The only reason we are artists is to have our egos petted daily, and mine is like a very, very angry tomcat. So, next, the manifestos and contemporary practice in context. Well, I've had three ideas for my manifesto, which I'm going to look at now because I can't remember them. The first one was focused on fate, the study or the acceptance of the improbable, and how we should marvel at the smaller things, about how it's stupid to forget about how improbable everything is and how you should appreciate everything that is because it is so improbable, and how belief and religion blindly and ignorantly are an aberration to the illuminated mind, as I put it. Illuminated coming from old world phrase of our society, the illuminated society. I'll read you one or two things. To express the understanding of fate is to express every thought in your mind, regardless of meaninglity, form, and value. Thought is a way of refining the tumult of the mind. Dreams are the cerebral expression, as art is the physical divination of this expression. Belief and religiousness are fatal to the illuminated mind. Ignorance breeds in the mind of the believer. The curse of the religion and fanatic thought is seen in more than the typecast old religion, but in the uniformal and ignorant following of a single science. All forms are undeniable in their arguability as art or expression. The paradox is to be celebrated, as is the conflict of opinion. That last one came from an interview we watched where two very angry looking artists had a bit of a shout at each other with Jeremy Paxton in between about what was and what wasn't art, and it is the most hilarious paradox. One of the most hilarious. Because what is art and what isn't? An argument that will never die, I believe, as there is one side to the argument, there is always the other. There is always the opposing force. It's physics. And the second idea is a much more fantasy-based manifesto to create three gods. The first being Salathus, the god of pleasure. What did I write down about? What's it? Write down about Salathus. Salathus, the god of pleasure and earthly desires, in a homage to, and don't judge me for this, Warhammer 40,000's Slanesh, god of pleasure. I wrote down some phrases which would be in his words, and I would conjure up a different world in which these gods live, in which people would follow this manifesto and worship these gods as we worship gods today. Salathus. And the strong rape the weak. Well, and the strong rape the weak. The clever kill the stupid. The men fuck the women, and the women breed more men. The orgies never end, and the thousand plots play out, and the rich fall to the glassy-eyed poor. Arcus. Arcus is a god of law and a god of obedience, a god of following and being a cog in the greater machine of the mind. In that, if we all play a role, then we will create a mind of our individual parts and our individual consciousness. Arcus. Follow me and know all, one amongst millions, a soul in the ocean of souls, in the machine of cogs, in the cognator of reality. The light of knowledge shines on the adept and the loyal to me, the loyal in service. And Magnus, the needed god of power and god of destruction, god of glory. Magnus, kill for me, kill them all, burn your enemies, chant my name, bask in glory and victory. Death is your payment to me, blood is your wine, flesh is your bread, souls are your gold. Now, I've been pondering doing that manifesto for a while now, and I'm not sure whether I should or shouldn't. But it's the same with all of them, and I'll take public opinion to it, truthfully. The last manifesto I don't have written down here, so I'm going to have to just try and remember it from my brain, which is a very, very hard thing to do, because as I said before, it's like a bowl of soup, and the very important chunky bits always float to the bottom. The last manifesto is one of positivism, one of helpfulness, and it's after I saw this little idea for like a help sheet, in that if you do good deeds then you get a stamp, and this, after a lot of stamps, you get a reward. I think that's such a beautiful idea, that if we all followed that idea, the world would be such a better place, because people would just help people for a little reward. And people say that, oh, it's stupid to help people when you only want a reward. But why is it so stupid? Why is it so horrible to help people and want to get something out of it? Because it's better than not helping people and wanting to get something out of it, which so many of us in society do today anyway. The manifestos I've been reading, most recently the Surrealist Manifesto, have affected my view very profoundly, because I've only got halfway through the Surrealist Manifesto, and let me tell you, it is incredibly hard to read. It was written by the madman who is much, much more mad and insane than I, which I love very much. It's very interesting to read. And I'm also reading the Communist Manifesto. Will do. And the very famous Banksy Manifesto, which I think I'm most enticed by its design and shortness. Shortness is very good, because the Surrealist Manifesto drones on and on and on about many things, and the point is somewhat lost in an ocean of words. Now, what else was I going to talk about? I can't remember. Ah, yes. The diary fodder. The things I've got to express down here on here. I've reached what Christian called the turning point, or the coin dropping, the penny dropping, where the work has accumulated. We've been given more and more work, and I see now what I must become. Before, I only did work once or twice a day, or a few times in a few days, and that's not how it can be. Everyone is complaining about the amount of work, saying, how can we do this much work? And I can only reply, because it must be your life. It must become your life, and I must let this become my life. Time that I don't spend reading manifestos or poring over old tomes, I must spend drawing and expressing my whims, or practicing my art, practicing my drawing, looking to others for inspiration, going out and looking at art galleries, staying on the internet and looking through 1,000 galleries of images and writing about them, and always writing, expressing myself, reflecting on what I've done, and every day this must be done. There's no room for anything else. It must be your life. If you want to pass, that is. If you wish to become an artist, it must be more than your life. As we saw from the interviews, it must become you. You must let yourself flow into your art and into your writing and your opinion. I've wondered how to structure it, like having a routine, doing this, doing that every day. Well, that's not how it's done either. You just have to do it as you do it. There is no routine. The routine is going on for the rest of your life as an artist. And I think that's enough for that diary.